The Warren Buffett Wealth Roadmap, 14 books to build an empire. If you want to master investing without losing your life savings to bad advice, skip the financial gurus. Here are the 14 books Buffett wants you to read first, starting with the one he says changed his life at age 19. Here are some top picks that the great man himself recommends to anyone looking to get started on learning about business and investment. We need to turn this from a list of books into a curated roadmap to wealth, using Warren Buffett's personal philosophy as the driving force. Why should you care about these specific books? Most people think making millions in the stock market requires a complex math degree or a secret algorithm. But the richest investor in history says it actually comes down to one simple habit: reading 500 pages a day. Warren Buffett didn't inherit his wealth, he read his way to it. Out of the thousands of books he's consumed, he explicitly credits just 14 for building his multi-billion-dollar empire. Level 1 is about survival. If you jump into the stock market without these 3 books, you aren't investing, you're just gambling with a blindfold on. Buffett reads these to build a shield against market crashes. First, you need the foundation. Buffett calls chapters 8 and 20 of The Intelligent Investor the absolute bedrock of his strategy. Combine that with security analysis, and you have the exact toolkit Buffett used to analyze companies when he was starting out with nothing. It starts with The Intelligent Investor by Benjamin Graham. Buffett calls this the best book on investing ever written. But here is a secret: you don't even need to read the whole thing. Buffett explicitly says if you just memorize chapter 8, which explains how to ignore market madness, and chapter 20, the concept of a margin of safety, you will protect yourself from ever losing your shirt on a bad trade. Think of that as the mindset. Next, you need the actual toolkit. That's book 2, Security Analysis, also written by Graham. Warning: this book is dense. It reads like a textbook. But it teaches you exactly how to dissect a company's financial statements like a surgeon. It's the exact math Buffett used in his 20s to find completely hidden, undervalued stocks that everyone else missed. But Graham's math only looked at the past. To find the giant winners of the future, the next Apple, Amazon, or Google, you need book 3, Common Stocks and Uncommon Profits by Philip Fisher. This book shifted Buffett's entire career. Fisher teaches you to look beyond the numbers to evaluate a company's management and its long-term growth potential. It's the art of buying outstanding businesses, not just cheap stocks. When you combine Benjamin Graham's strict mathematical safety with Philip Fisher's forward-looking growth, you get the exact formula Warren Buffett used to build Berkshire Hathaway. Master these 3, and you're officially ahead of 90% of retail investors. But understanding the numbers is useless if you get scammed by Wall Street insiders. Which brings us to level 2. This section shifts gears from strict math to corporate psychology, human nature, and street smarts. It uses a slightly more cynical, fast-paced tone to break up the technical density of level 1. Welcome to level 2. If level 1 taught you how to read the numbers, level 2 is where you learn how the game is actually rigged. Because in the real world, brilliant math fails if you don't understand the absolute madness of human behavior. But math isn't enough, you have to understand the psychology of Wall Street. To survive the psychological traps of Wall Street, you start with book 4, Fred Schwed's Where Are the Customers' Yachts? Written way back in 1940, this is Buffett's all-time favorite humorous take on finance. The title says it all. A visitor to New York admires the beautiful yachts owned by the city's stockbrokers and asks a simple question: where are the clients' yachts? This book is a brutal, funny reminder that the financial industry is built to make the middlemen rich, not you. It completely immunizes you against buying into Wall Street hype. But it's not just the brokers who act crazy, it's the CEOs. That brings us to book 5, Business Adventures by John Brooks. Bill Gates actually borrowed Buffett's personal copy of this book back in 1991, and both billionaires still call it the best business book they've ever read. It breaks down iconic corporate disasters from the past, proving that no matter how advanced technology gets, human nature, ego, and corporate panic never change. It teaches you to spot the fatal flaws in modern tech giants before their stock plummets. So how do you find the rare CEOs who actually win? You read book 6, The Outsiders by William Thorndike. Buffett praised this book in his annual shareholder letter because it profiles 8 radical corporate leaders who did things completely differently. They ignored Wall Street, they refused to pay dividends when it didn't make sense, and they focused entirely on one metric: cash flow per share. This book teaches you exactly how to identify elite, unconventional managers, the kind of leaders you want to hand your hard-earned money to. But understanding the numbers is only half the battle. You also have to understand the people running the machine. That's why Buffett recommends Jack, straight from the gut. It's a masterclass in aggressive, real-world corporate leadership. From the man who grew General Electric market value by $400 billion. Reading this alongside The Outsiders gives you the ultimate checklist to separate world-class CEOs from the ones who are just coasting. Once you can spot the traps of greedy brokers, understand the flaws of human nature, and identify elite outsider CEOs, you've mastered the game on the ground. But what happens when the entire global economy goes into a tailspin? For that, you need level 3, the billionaire mindset shifters. What happens when the global economy crashes? This section moves away from individual tactics and dials in on high-level cognitive psychology. Level 3 is where we stop looking at charts and start looking inside the minds of the masters. Because once you know the math and the rules of the game, your biggest enemy isn't Wall Street. It's your own brain. This level is about building psychological armor. If you want to know exactly how Buffett and his late partner Charlie Munger think, you don't look at spreadsheets. You look at mental models. Poor Charlie's Almanac is basically a cheat code for decision-making, not just in investing, but in life. We start with Book 7, The Essays of Warren Buffett, compiled by Lawrence Cunningham. Look, you can watch thousands of hours of commentary about Buffett on YouTube, or you can just read his own words. This book organizes decades of his annual shareholder letters into clear, thematic lessons. It reads like a masterclass on corporate governance, dealing with market cycles, and why buying a stock should feel exactly like buying a local grocery store. It strips away all the modern financial noise. Warren Buffett's Ground Rules by Jeremy C. Miller. Buffett has praised this book as a great way to learn about investment theory in practice. This book is a vital bridge because it analyzes his early partnership letters, from 1956 to 1970, which is the exact period when Buffett racked up his highest percentage returns. The Essays of Warren Buffett, because while the essays cover his later corporate years at Berkshire Hathaway, Ground Rules covers his younger, hyper-aggressive investing days. But there's a catch: those essays focus on Buffett after he was already a billionaire. If you want to know how he started with almost nothing, you need Book 8, Warren Buffett's Ground Rules by Jeremy C. Miller. Buffett himself praised this book for breaking down his early partnership days. It gives you the exact rules he used to crush the market when he was managing a smaller pool of money, the phase of life you are likely in right now. But if Buffett is the strategist, his late partner Charlie Munger was the philosopher. That's Book 8, Poor Charlie's Almanac. Buffett famously said you will never find a book with more useful ideas. Munger's entire philosophy centers on mental models, borrowing big ideas from psychology, physics, and history to avoid making stupid mistakes. This book teaches you how to look at an investment from 10 different angles at once, so you never get blindsided by your own blind spots. Finally, you anchor that wisdom with Book 9, Howard Marks, The Most Important Thing. Marks is a legendary billionaire investor known for his market insights, and Buffett reads his memos the second they come out. This book doesn't give you a formula. It introduces second-level thinking. While everyone else says, this is a good company, let's buy the stock, second-level thinkers ask, everyone thinks this is a good company, which means the stock is overpriced, how do we exploit that? It turns you from a reactive investor into a predator. Mastering your mindset protects your capital when everyone else is panicking. But to truly build generational wealth, you have to look at the macro picture, the massive global cycles that shift trillions of dollars across history. And for that, we enter our final level, level 4. Welcome to the final level. You know the math, you understand the psychology, and you've mastered your mindset. Now, it's time to zoom out completely. Level 4 is about the global forces that shift trillions of dollars across generations. Finally, to survive market crashes, you have to understand history. Jack Bogle's Little Book of Common Sense Investing is the ultimate defense mechanism for everyday investors. It's the book that popularized index funds, which Buffett says is the best vehicle for 99% of people. To survive macroeconomic storms, you start with Book 10, Essays in Persuasion by John Maynard Keynes. Keynes predicted some of the biggest economic disasters of the 20th century before they happened. This book teaches you how governments react during severe recessions and printing press crises. Buffett reads this to understand macro cycles, helping him keep cash ready to deploy when the rest of the world thinks the sky is falling. But what if you don't want to spend your life analyzing macro cycles or corporate balance sheets? Buffett has a final cheat code for 99% of people, and it's Book 11, Jack Bogle's The Little Book of Common Sense Investing. Bogle founded Vanguard and invented the index fund. Buffett openly admits that for the vast majority of everyday investors, trying to beat the market is a losing game. This book proves mathematically why buying the whole market through a low-cost index fund will beat almost every expensive financial advisor on the planet. It fits perfectly into Level 4 because Arthur Levitt, the former SEC chairman, exposes the backroom politics and systemic tricks of Wall Street that everyday investors never see. But understanding economic history won't save you if the system itself is actively working against you. That's why you must read Book 14, Arthur Levitt's Take on the Street. Written by a former chairman of the SEC, this book pulls back the curtain on the ugly political underbelly of Washington and Wall Street. It exposes how mutual fund managers hide hidden fees, how stock analysts deliberately lie to protect corporate clients, and how the game is rigged against the retail investor. Buffett loves this book because it gives you the exact insider knowledge you need to avoid getting slaughtered by institutional trapdoors. From the foundational math of Level 1 to the global endgame of Level 4, these 14 books are the exact map Warren Buffett used to build his empire. But knowledge without execution is useless. Reading these won't make you a billionaire overnight. But as Buffett says, knowledge builds up, like compound interest. Tell me in the comments, which book are you reading first?